and I wanted to stay along this line of talking, but I want to position our to like the African continent, because we're looking at the Middle East and we're looking at North Africa, and don't. With these moves by Israel and the United States, America was already losing political capital globally, but she's losing it faster and faster. And now we see there was and not just America, but all of America's allies. Most people are not aware of this. There was an article in African News.com. I'm .en, I guess, and it says Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger look to form a federation. And on top of that, as soon as that came out, one of the first things I heard in the news, I can't find the article, but one of the first things I heard in the news was that Russia and China are trying to move in and force these nations to push us out. And then another article came out, and I'm going to let you have the floor just a bit. Then another article came out, which really had their panties in a twist. And it says, Bank of China will use Zambia unit to boost renminbi trade clout, meaning that since China buys a lot of copper from Zambia and China does a lot of business in Zambia, that they were going to make it more easy for the trade to happen, and it would be done between Zambia's currency and the renminbi or the yuan, most people say. And this has them livid in Washington, London, and Brussels. What do you have to say about that?
Well, this is why Marco Rubio was going apocalyptic. He said, look, the dollarization, if you allow to continue in 5 years, we won't be able to sanction anybody anymore because they don't use the US dollar anymore. Well, that's the point, little Marco. That's exactly the point. When you use sanction as a weapon against everybody pretty soon realize, okay, maybe we shouldn't trust our national security, our economic lifeblood to these mafias in Washington. Maybe we work out a different system. And I just saw another news about Nigeria. China is building a gas oil pipeline.
Yes, it goes live. It goes live in just a few days. Yes.
Yes, they just built a gas oil pipeline connecting Nigeria, which is landlocked, to the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. So look, they don't need the West. They do not need France. They do not need United States. They are getting their infrastructures. China can provide the infrastructure. Russia can provide the security. This is how the China and Russia partnership worked in places in Central Asia and later in Syria. People were expecting China to move in on the Syrian war, but China doesn't need to do that. China is providing an economic support line to Bashar al-Assad's government. Well, Russia provides the security. That's why China and Russia's role is very complementary, because China doesn't want to send its expeditionary force into Middle East to Africa. Russia can do that. Russia has the Wagner Group. Russia has its military base in Syria, etc. And then Russia and China works in sync. They're on the same page. And let's face it, the best hope for Ukraine reconstruction is for Ukraine to join the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm serious. I mean, you think Europe is going to come up with a reconstruction fund for Ukraine? Europe is going to go to Ukraine to build infrastructure? Where have they last successfully done something like that? Right. Biden promised Africa that he's going to come with a competing plan to China's Belt and Road Initiative by pledging investing how many US dollars. That was 2 years ago. That was 2021. What happened to that, right? I mean, show me the money, man. At the end of the day, you got to show me the money. China can show their airport, the ports, the roads, the railroads, the power plants. Yeah, and what's America got to show except for Kamala Harris going to Africa talking about this is a moment in time. Half of the time, I don't even know what Kamala Harris is talking about. this woman is permanently high or something, and she is the one that would be the president of the United States if Biden croaks in office. which is a real possibility given Biden's physical and mental state at this point. So yeah, the U.S. ruling elite is a joke, and that's why they like recently. Xi Jinping just went to Vietnam, right? Biden was in Vietnam earlier, proclaiming like strategic partnership. They're talking about using Vietnam to counterbalance China. But China has been Vietnam's strategic partners for 15 years already, since 2008. And China's trade with Vietnam is over $200 billion. That's almost the same as the trade between China and Russia. This like Vietnam is like either number 6 or number 5 of China's trading partner. It's the largest China's trading partner in the ASEAN nations. And when United States says, oh, we got to de-risk from China, all these multinationals got to move out their supply chain outside of China. So all the Chinese manufacturers go like, okay, we're going to move our plants to Vietnam, and then we're going to slap the label made in Vietnam and still export to the United States. And so China and Vietnam are in perfectly complementary economy right now. So China is moving offsourcing all its low margin, labor intensive industry into Vietnam, and is helping Vietnam to upgrade its infrastructure. China built Hanoi's metro system, and China has this grand vision for the development of the region. They call the Pan-Asian Rail Link, which will connect with high-speed rail link the cities of China through Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, and all the way to Singapore. So you can take a high-speed train eventually from Shanghai to Singapore. That's a grand vision for future, for development. What grand vision does the United States have? The grand vision of the United States is we got to prepare for a war over Taiwan Strait. It's like nobody want that. Nobody want to work. People just want to trade. That's what China has to offer. They'll offer investment. China is Vietnam's top foreign direct investment. And what did Biden also promised to invest in Vietnam, but the U.S. number just get dwarfed by the Chinese numbers. The gravitational pull of Chinese economy in the ASEAN is so great. It's like United States can't even compete, and like they did. What they can do is through regime change, through buying off corrupt politicians. Like what happened in Philippines. They must offer Marcos a deal he couldn't refuse. So Marcos Marcos is now declining all Chinese investment into the Philippines. But guess what? What has U.S. done for the Philippines? I mean, like I look at the statistics. Philippines, which had been the U.S. colony for the longest time, and it did not enjoy. Generally, it was enjoy peace after World War II. It wasn't involved in major wars. And if you look at the development index between Philippines and the rest of ASEAN, Philippines is on the bottom tier. And even Indonesia has higher GDP number per capita than the Philippines. So this is what you get for being an American vassal, and because you have Bongbong Marcos, the dad, Marcos Sr. looting the country. And Bongbong Marcos now decide to be a U.S. lapdog. Got to be, the family business, the way to go. But that vision that it's not a vision for the future. It's a plan for the existing elite to exploit their patronage network to the United States, to exploit their connections so they can get their children, send them to Yale to get educated, to siphon off the funds and to stash in Swiss bank account. But it does nothing for the people, average people in the Philippines. And again, so I stop me anytime on my rant, because I can just keep going.
And they're doing it also in Thailand too. Don't forget that they've done that in Thailand with the new government or whatever.
But guess what? So the Thai Prime Minister, he indicated he is ready to resume talks about the building the high speed links between Thailand and China. And so guess what? What's the title of the new article in the Diplomat magazine? Which it says Thailand's new high speed rail links will upgrade its ties with China, but at what cost? At what cost? Guess what? I'm pretty sure whatever cost it will cost a fraction of what California's never built high-speed rail is going to cost. And California's high-speed rail is from nowhere to nowhere, and a big white elephant project, and nothing. Whatever Thailand does is not going to come anything close to that. And at the end of the day, few years from now, you're going to be able to travel from Bangkok to Shanghai on high-speed rail, and then you California, you can travel from what, Bakersfield to another middle of nowhere town. I mean, it's that's why I say California need to join Belt and Road Initiative. So United States finally get a high-speed rail. California never built a rail without Chinese labor in its history. Okay, Chinese built a rail in California. Like maybe it's time to ask the Chinese to do the same.
I was listening to what you were saying, and I found the article about the Niger oil and pipe, and it said this is Reuters, which is a British news organization, I think, and it says Niger aims to start oil exports from Benin pipeline in January, leader says. So we're talking about not only did China build a pipeline, but they're also building the storage capacity also.
They also built a port. They also built a port in Berlin. China is building the whole integrated infrastructure all across Africa. They're not just building oil pipeline; they also build power plants.
Yeah.
They also build to power the industries. They also build roads, railroads, ports.
Transfer of technology.
Everything is linked together. Yes, and this is the West hates the transfer of technology. They call one of the biggest problems they have with China, also in the trade talk, is about the so-called forced transfer of technology. Because China says if you want to do business in China, you have to do technology transfer. So U.S. say that's forced transfer of technology. Guess what? Why is it forced? If you don't, China is giving you a choice. If you want to do business in China, you got to transfer technology. You always have the option to pack up and to not come to China at all. It's your choice whether you want to do business in China or not, whether you want to make money in China or not. This is China asserting its own sovereignty. The sovereignty is something United States doesn't believe in, of course.
Yeah.
But the whole meaning of sovereignty is like, yes, you come to do business in our country, you got to follow our rule, which just means you got to train the locals, transfer your knowledge, so our locals can upgrade their own capability. And that's how California has high-speed bullets.
I saw that. I had to post that. I saw that. Ken is hilarious.
United States just got to pull its head out of its ass and work with China. The U.S. has a desperate need to upgrade its infrastructure. Like Indonesia today has a high-speed rail going 350 kilometers an hour from Jakarta to Bandung, because that was a flagship project of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And this could happen in California. I'm telling you, this could happen in California. But I'm gonna go travel to Jakarta. I'm gonna film it on YouTube for my YouTube channel of how the experience of traveling in high-speed rail in Indonesia. I gave United States. I don't know, man. Like I told you, I was back in US a few months ago, and everything looks physically kind of the same as like a few years back. Except the price went up 3-4 times. I'm paying for the same shit, and then I'm just paying like triple and quadruple. And Yeah, that's the world we live in. That's the price you pay for being an empire,
Yeah.
and nobody's the average working class Americans are not benefiting from that, and it's really time people say, enough is enough. Time to stop this bullshit. We don't need to send billions of dollars in weapons to Israel to bomb children and not have healthcare inside the United States. I mean, this is a basic self-interest and a moral imperative. But we all know average American can make up doesn't make the foreign policies, and instead we get all these propaganda shoved on into our throats. And so back to the Israel Palestine conflict. I don't think Israel. I mean, I don't think Israel is doing well. They're doing all this crazy, insane propaganda of stripping men naked, and filming them, thinking this somehow will break the spirit of Palestinian resistance. This is this is a desperate measure. They're desperate because after 2 months of fighting, Hamas is not Hamas is still intact, and they are so the only plan, their so-called grand strategy is ethnically cleansing Gaza, and that's gonna. I mean, nobody is up for that, and right now Israel just transformed itself into a monster in the eyes of the world, and when I talk of the eyes of the world, 85% of the world that's outside United States and its European vassal states are not on board with that. And even the American vassal states, the rats are jumping the ship. I'm telling you, Rashid. Like the Europeans always have a choice to switch sides, and right now you even have Canada, New Zealand, etc. They're all suddenly signing up for the ceasefire because they saw this how it's just bad policy to be against peace. Everybody want peace. Why are you against peace? I mean this at a minimum cost to themselves too, because UN resolution that everybody knows is kind of it's toothless. No, Israel is not going to implement that. So all you have to do is just say, "Hey, we're for peace, man," and United States leadership can't even do that. So let's see how the empire currently it's scrambling, it's distracted, and I think I don't see any kind of coherent plans to dig the U.S. empire out of that hole. So I think we're going to be in that hole for a while, and while the rest of the world will march on with China, with Russia, with BRICS, with you see what happened to Argentina? The Argentinian new president before the election, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to cut off ties with China. I'm going to cut off trade with China because I don't want to trade with those freaking communists." And then and then now his first act as a presidency is to ask China to extend the credit line to Argentina. I mean, like, this is when the reality hits. It's like, you can talk big during an election, but at the end of the day, you got to face the reality. And it's time for American leadership to face the reality too.
But they're little kids. There are no adults in Washington. Thank you, Ken, for the super chat, for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. There are no adults in Washington. And if there are adults, they've been relegated to the back of the classroom, and the imbeciles, they are running the show, as we can clearly see with the policies that they continue to push, which are not only detrimental to the world, but it's also detrimental to America's standing and America's national security. I was just thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about how she continues to provoke. Like, let's just use common sense for a minute, because common sense is not so common today. China holds over $1 trillion in U.S. debt. China is the United States' largest trade partner. China is the largest investor, the largest banker. All right. Now, 93 to 95% of all goods on your stores, in your store shelves, come from China or a subsidiary of China, like one of the smaller nations that does the work and then put their China does the work. The smaller nation puts the tag on it and ship it to the United States, like you were talking about. Now,
even your video games come from China. Epic Games, it's owned like 48%. Yeah, 48%. Yeah, everything. I was shocked. Like Epic Games is 48% owned by Tencent. China is financing the game development in United States, and the thing is, there's still the fear of losing the hegemon status, of the number one status of the United States. I think that's something they can't let go. That they are. We hash out this many times, Rashid, because they really clinging on to be USA number one, to be the unipolar super duper hyperpower that have full spectrum dominance all across the globe. And right now they're panicking because they saw that's slipping through their fingers, and China and Russia is rising in the standing in the world, and they, for some reason, they psychologically just cannot handle that. And this is why also they're so wrong on the Palestine Israel, because people like Biden, let's face it, their best years, their peak years was like the 1980s and 1990s. The world has moved on since then. That was 30 years ago. And this is why they still feel like they have to act the same as they did back in the 80s and 90s. And this is why there's a lot of junior staffer and the lower level in the State Department are rebelling, because they actually understand this is bad for America, but their senile superiors who are still in office, they can't see the program. They can't see where the world is going, and they're too stuck in their ways. And so we have a senile, decrepit empire, senile, decrepit, declining empire led by senile, decrepit, octogenarian leaders. This is the state of the U.S. empire today.
But you left out an important point, and I have to go back and make sure that everybody understands one of the main things why the United States is so frantic, while they continue to focus on China and say that China is the most pressing threat to U.S. national security. Here are the facts. Because China is independent as a nation, because China is a non-Western nation, and because China is a non-white nation. Those three things are unacceptable in the Western world, and you can see it. They say it behind closed doors. They say it in their papers, their writings. But publicly they don't acknowledge it to the average person. But if you go and read their writings that comes out of these think tanks and these government tanks, they say that. They actually say that. And but the masses don't understand that the United States is so frantic because of those three things. China is an independent nation, China is a non-Western nation, and China is a non-white nation. Those three things spook the United States out, because in the last few hundred years, it's only been Western nations that have been able to dominate the global landscape. And they fear Russia. They don't even consider Russia white. They call them all kind of names and stuff. They won't even accept them into the European sphere of power. This is why
white is a flexible. White is a flexible category now, Rashid. The white is whatever they think. The white is whatever they define the term to be. It's like your eyes are lying to you, Rashid. No, the Russians are totally not blue-eyed and blonde and whitest looking people in the world. No. They must be Asiatic. Somehow some kind of Mongoloid. Like the legacy of Genghis Khan or something.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the Western liberal mindset, right? They really think they can, by performing this, regurgitating constant propaganda, they can perform like self-deception into these, obviously it's for them, it's like self-evident truth. The Western liberal order is like the end of the history, And any challenge to that, like you said, China broke the paradigm for the last 500 years. And now their Western liberal brain can't handle that. It's like it's mind blown. It's like this is why, and this is why they don't understand why Russia and China is working together when you guys have been screwing both nations for decades and pushing them together closer than ever, and they're like, no. I mean, it's just a phase. Russia and China, that's just a phase. It's gonna pass. They're gonna get back to bickering. In the meantime, we're still gonna wage proxy war on both of them. But in the hope at some point they're gonna do like the Sino-Soviet split again. It's just like you have to perform a lot of mental gymnastics to remain a firm believer in the Western liberal order today. And this is why, for the people on the outside, for us to look at these fools, we're like, we just laugh because it's totally laughable. But for the people who are firmly in that mindset that they have to, because they have to believe in the Western supremacy. For them, that's their identity. That's everything. They don't have much outside. Their whole identity depend on that. Depend on the Western supremacy. Well, once you see this non-Western, non-white nation can rise to the top without invading other countries, without enslaving other populations, they're like how is that possible? They must be cheating. They're cheaters. Because the only way we know how to develop is to pillage and committing genocide and enslaving other people. There cannot be a possibly other way forward. And so this is why they got to put down China. This is China is setting up a bad example for the rest of the world. That's not what they want to go by. Despite their best effort, I mean, they're failing because right now they're let's just say they don't have the best minds staffing the U.S. empire right now. The U.S. empire got to a place where it's so complacent. You have all these mediocre intellectual midgets, running the show, and there's only so long you can run a global empire on such limited human resources. I'm sad to say, but that's where we are.